Hi everyone. This session is focusing on strategies to help children with developmental delays and disabilities learn effectively. Children ages 3 to 5 have unique developmental trajectories and some require specialized approaches to support their growth. These specialized strategies ensure every child can access the curriculum in ways that match their abilities and interests. Individualization and differentiation are essential components of high-quality, inclusive preschool programs. The goal is always to equip educators with practical approaches to implement these strategies. The learning objectives are to define individualization and differentiation in early childhood education, to identify strategies to adapt instruction for children with developmental delays and disabilities, to recognize ways to assess and plan for individual learning needs, and to look at some practical examples in classroom settings. Individualization involves planning learning experiences that respond to each child's unique profile. Unlike standardized instruction, it recognizes that children develop at different rates across multiple domains. For example, some children may need more time to develop fine motor skills, while others excel in language development. Individualization focuses on student interests, strengths, and needs rather than a fixed curriculum. Teachers can modify activities, provide additional supports, or extend learning opportunities based on their observations and assessments. This also involves adjusting the pace of instruction so children can progress comfortably. Individualization promotes engagement because students work on meaningful tasks that match their abilities. It is particularly important for children with developmental delays who may require targeted interventions to reach milestones. It's important that we recognize each child as an individual learner. Differentiation is slightly different from individualization. It focuses on providing multiple pathways for learning while maintaining a consistent curriculum. For example, two children may be learning the same concept, but one might use tactile materials and the other might benefit from a visual chart. Differentiation can occur in four main areas: content, process, product, and environment. Content refers to what children learn. Process refers to how they learn it. Product refers to how they demonstrate understanding, and environment refers to how the classroom supports learning. Differentiation ensures that every child can engage with the material successfully, even when they have varied abilities. It is a flexible approach that allows educators to adjust instruction in response to their ongoing assessment and observations. It is essential for inclusive classrooms where children have a wide range of developmental abilities. Differentiation supports all learners while maintaining high expectations. Individualization and differentiation are central to an effective preschool education. They both help students make meaningful developmental progress by providing instruction that aligns with their abilities. When children can access learning at an appropriate level, they are more motivated and engaged. Conversely, teaching that is too easy or too difficult can lead to frustration or disengagement. These approaches also foster independence, which allows children to experience success and build confidence. When we meet children where they are, we respect their unique learning journeys. For students with developmental delays or disabilities, these strategies can prevent skill gaps and they support inclusion. They also promote social emotional development by providing achievable challenges. Ultimately, individualized and differentiated instruction ensures that every child has the opportunity to thrive. Students in preschool may have a range of developmental delays and disabilities. Common areas include speech and language, cognitive skills, motor development, and social emotional growth. Each child's needs vary, and some may require extensive support, while others need minimal adjustments. Early intervention is critical because skills acquired in the preschool years can set the foundation for lifelong learning. As educators, we must recognize the signs of developmental delays and tailor our instruction accordingly. Understanding the type and severity of delays helps teachers plan individualized learning experiences. Collaboration with specialists ensures that strategies are appropriate and effective. Observing children closely allows teachers to adapt instruction dynamically. Awareness of developmental delays enables proactive support rather than just reactive adjustments. Think back to our class last week where we talked about universal design. Assessing individual needs is a cornerstone of effective instruction. Teachers should observe children regularly and take detailed notes on their skills, preferences, and challenges. Developmental screenings and formal assessments provide valuable data to inform instruction. Families are also critical partners, offering insight into the child's strengths and routines outside the classroom. Collaboration with specialists, it could be a speech language pathologist or an occupational therapist, helps educators refine their strategies. Assessment should also be play-based, authentic, ongoing, and formative, allowing for adjustments throughout the year. Combining all these multiple sources of information ensures a comprehensive understanding of each child. When we use these data-driven practices, it makes it possible to set realistic and meaningful goals. And then accurate assessment guides our instructional planning and resource allocation. And then it also helps measure progress over time and identify emerging needs. After assessing individual needs, the next step is to develop individualized goals for each student. The goals should be based on the assessment data and reflect the child's developmental stage. Of course, goals can target various domains, whether it's cognitive, language, motor, adaptive, social, emotional. And then the objectives should be those SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So a goal for a child might be to identify 5 letters by the end of the month using tactile or visual aids. Individualized goals provide that roadmap for instruction and help track a student's progress. They also guide the selection of activities and materials. Realistic goals can encourage success and boost confidence. Of course, our goals should be revisited regularly and adjusted as children grow. Content differentiation involves modifying the learning materials to match children's abilities and interests. For instance, one child might engage with counting by manipulating physical objects, and another one would benefit from using visual charts. Picture books, tactile materials, and hands-on activities also can make concepts more accessible. As educators can also adjust the complexity of tasks to meet varying developmental levels. Differentiated content ensures that all students participate meaningfully in the classroom learning experiences. Inclusion is supported because we're allowing children with different abilities to explore the same concepts. We're aligning content with interests, so we're keeping children engaged and motivated. And this approach encourages active participation and supports the mastery of skills. Differentiated content also promotes curiosity and exploration, and that in doing those, it ensures that all learning is challenging but achievable for every child. Also, note that I have posted an infographic about 8 curriculum modifications that you can refer to in Blackboard. Differentiating the process refers to modifying how children engage with learning activities. Some children may benefit from those hands-on experiences, and others may excel with visual or auditory instructions. Small group and one-on-one instruction also can allow teachers to provide more targeted supports. Peer mentoring can be effective, which involves pairing children that have complementary skills. Rotating learning centers and small group can provide varied experiences and accommodate different learning styles. Flexibility is key because children's needs change daily and weekly as they grow and develop. We can always observe engagement and adjust our strategies in real time. Differentiating the process ensures that children actively participate rather than passively receive instruction. This approach also fosters collaboration and communication and problem-solving skills. When we offer multiple pathways for learning, we are increasing the likelihood that all students can succeed. Differentiating the product allows children to show what they have learned in ways that match their strengths. For example, some children may prefer to draw a picture, while others may build a model or verbally explain a concept. Children with fine motor challenges can use adaptive tools or digital devices to participate. When we provide multiple options, it validates diverse abilities and it encourages creativity in instruction and creativity in students. This approach also reduces frustration and it supports self-expression. Teachers should always clearly communicate expectations for each type of product to ensure consistency. It's important that we are capturing the learning of the concept across students. Products should still reflect the learning objective, even if the format varies. Differentiation in product fosters a sense of accomplishment and ownership. It allows children to demonstrate mastery while we are still accommodating developmental differences. Teachers can use these varied products for assessment and to inform the future instruction. I know on our reading reflection in the past, I asked you to draw something that you learned from the lecture. So I'm going to ask that again. As part of your reading reflection, I want you to draw something that illustrates a concept that you learned. The learning environment can be differentiated to support diverse learners. We always want classrooms to include quiet focus areas, areas for active exploration, areas for sensory regulation. It might be important to have sensory stations or fidget tools so that children can manage their attention and behavior and self-regulate. It's important that we can have adaptive furniture, so we might have adjustable chairs or tables or flexible seating so that we are ensuring that all children are comfortable and that everything is accessible to them. Visual schedules that show the routine of the day and labels with words and pictures can help the children understand the routines and expectations of the classroom. Strategic placement of materials can also reduce distractions and support independent learning. We want a flexible environment that allows for movement. We want lots of activities and learning centers where children can play independently, they can make choices, and that the environment is supporting the learning. Of course, it's so important to observe children in the space so that you can identify if there's any environmental barriers or needed supports. When we modify the environment, we're focusing on promoting engagement, safety, of course, and inclusion so that every student has access. We can also use the environmental cues to scaffold learning and encourage self-regulation. Think to the snoozling rooms. Also, you can think about when we go on our field trip, looking at different classrooms and taking note of what you notice in each area. Group instruction can be structured also to meet children's individual needs while fostering that social learning. Flexible grouping allows teachers to match children by ability, interest, or learning style. We'll have one of those curriculum modifications, which is peer support. It encourages collaboration and social skills and cooperative problem solving between students. Right, so you might also have small groups that rotate and have a variety of learning experiences with lots of different modalities. We want groups to be dynamic and changing based on ongoing assessment and engagement. When teachers are in small groups, they can really provide targeted interventions, and then we can promote inclusion in larger group settings. Clear instructions and consistent routines, of course, help children understand and teach them about the boundaries and how to participate. I have included some videos that you can use to support your learning in this and observing. I have a video that I actually am just asking permission if I can share with you from the teacher who recorded it. It's an excellent example of differentiation. I just haven't heard back from her yet. When we observe interactions in group settings, it does help identify both the strengths and the areas that different students need support within. When we have group activities, we're still able to differentiate the content, the process, and the product. So we can have different ways for children to take in content and to demonstrate their learning. Effective group instruction does ensure that every student benefits from that shared and individualized learning opportunities. Right? We know that typical children learn from children who have delays and disabilities and vice versa, right? So that peer engagement and small group instruction is really critical. Assistive technology is a powerful tool, right, for supporting children who have developmental delays. It could be communication devices, it could be picture boards, speech generating devices. All of those things help children express their needs. It might be adaptive tools like specialized scissors or grips or even keyboards that might support skill development, toys with switches. Right? We might be able to have educational software and interactive apps to reinforce academic skills and engagement. Teachers can integrate technology seamlessly into daily routines rather than seeing it as a separate activity. Right. We have to, of course, train and model the appropriate and effective use of technology so that children can learn to use devices. Therapists are really important and critical here if we're using, depending on the type of assistive technology. If it's a high-tech communication device, we might need some support for a specialist to make sure we're utilizing it in the best way. Weighted materials such as weighted vests or weighted blankets might also be assistive technology in some ways because it's helping children adapt, right? And so we would always consult an occupational therapist before children ever wear a weighted vest or anything like that, right? Technology can also enhance independence and participation. So if a child has a communication device, can communicate their needs or wants, then we increase their engagement and their participation, and we reduce their frustration. Of course, selecting tools based on the child's strengths maximizes success. There are various DIY assistive technology, so we call that like low-tech assistive technology. You could probably get online and see lots of different homemade seating or homemade grips, or a lot of DIY, and then assistive technology runs the gamut all the way up to a very fancy communication device. So and everything in between. We know that families are vital partners in the education of students, and including, students who happen to have developmental delays or disabilities. We always want to have regular communication about the goals and the progress and the strategies so that there is that consistency between home and school. If our student is accessing public preschool services based on a delay or disability, then they have an IEP. Remember that individualized education plan. And so if you're going to have all that information about the student's developmental history, family, and then the family's input about their priorities in terms of goals and objectives. Right. So the families can provide insights into their child's preferences, home routines, and any challenges that they see and that are priorities to them. What we hope is that when families are engaged as partners, then we're increasing the opportunity for children to get interventions at home and at school, and everyone is working towards that common goal of supporting the child. Of course, we want to respect all cultural and linguistic differences. So we might need translators, we might need interpreters, we might need to, provide, materials in a family's language, etc. It's always also important that we establish that relationship and that understanding and that trust between a teacher and the family, so that everyone feels heard and feels valued. Because when we share back and forth, that empowers families, right? And we recognize all the hard work that they're doing, right, towards those developmental gains. We always want to get feedback from families too. What do you see working at home? This is what we're trying at school. This is what we're seeing. And all of that collaboration ensures that those individual plans on the child's IEP reflect the whole child's life context. Collaboration with specialists. Specialists play a critical role in supporting children with developmental delays and disabilities in the public preschool setting. You might have a speech language pathologist, an occupational therapist, physical therapist. You also might have a developmental interventionist. Typically, that's going to be right before children turn 3. And then, of course, you're going to have the IECE teacher. So when all of these early childhood specialists are collaborating, then we ensure that the classroom activities and the curriculum are aligned with the child's therapeutic goals. So we might want to integrate the therapy exercises into daily routine, because then that makes those exercises or those skills more functional and meaningful, because it's in the child's natural environment, right? It's not in a clinical setting. So if an OT is working on a fine motor activity, you can incorporate that into a play center or into a small group activity, right? So if a physical therapist has ideas for gross motor play, then you make that part of your curriculum. Specialists can also provide strategies to adapt instruction or materials for individual children, right? They have their specialty, they have their wealth of knowledge. And so when we share that knowledge across disciplines, then we are all working towards the best interest of the child. Typically, you're going to have regular team meetings, those IEP meetings, so that everyone can communicate and collaborate, and we start to see that consistency in services. Teachers should always share their progress with specialists and back and forth, because that collaboration benefits the children, and it benefits the family, and it benefits anyone who's working with the child. Okay. And that goes back to where we can get that individualized instruction that some students need. Monitoring progress is essential. right? All the time. If you've had the 255 course, you've heard about authentic assessment, you've heard about play-based assessment. If you haven't, you will. But it's essential that we are observing so that we can have effective individualized instruction. We have to be thinking about their skill areas and all of those developmental domains where children are starting to master skills and concepts, and what areas are still needing support. When we have that regular assessment, it allows for timely adjustments to instruction and materials so that hopefully children are making successes and making approximations towards their goals. And when that happens, we're reinforcing learning and building children's confidence. That progress monitoring also informs our goal setting and our differentiation strategies. So we might be thinking about how students best process certain ways, and making sure that we have that available, and how that students are also demonstrating their knowledge. Okay, so we always want to look at different ways to get information. It could be checklists, it could be tallies, it could be a portfolio, and then we also can share those with families and show families all the hard work that their child is doing in school. It also, when we're doing that progress monitoring, it also is important to see if the specialists are seeing what the teacher's seeing and vice versa. Okay, and then everyone can reflect and either adapt or improve their instructional decisions. So teaching preschoolers with developmental delays and disabilities can be challenging, right? So, if you're teaching in a public preschool, you have children ages 3 to 5 years old, and they're often have a wide range of abilities and learning styles. You have 17 students in the morning and 17 students in the afternoon. You have 35 students or 34 students that all are individuals, right? So those individualized learning plans and differentiated activities are what we use to help meet these diverse needs effectively. We could have limited resources, right? So constraints on materials. We always can always use more staffing, right? There's never enough hands, and that can also be a barrier to individualized instruction and sometimes differentiation. Sometimes challenges cause teachers to think more creatively and think about, okay, well, how can I use this? How do I do those DIY things that I mentioned earlier? The principal doesn't have it in the budget to get this for me, but how can I DIY this or use something I already have to still provide this adaptation that the student needs, right? And then when we are with families and specialists, hopefully that collaboration is allowing us to share resources. Time constraints can also be a challenge. The preschool day, depending on where you teach, could be very short. You could have a 3 to 3.5 hour session in the morning and that same session in the afternoon. There are some preschools that operate all day sessions. There are some preschools who go 4 days a week. Each district has kind of their own setup, so it's hard to get it all done, right? But coming up with a system and being consistent and observing, and also thinking about being flexible, because sometimes there are things you can't control, right? So when you think about prioritizing those key learning goals and thinking about how do we make this curriculum accessible for all children. So if we look at an example, we might have 3 children all working on letter recognition. Right? And so they're all learning the same letters, but they require different approaches. So child A might benefit from tactile letters, hands-on tracing, drawing letters in the sand, drawing letters in the air, right? Because it reinforces their fine motor and visual recognition skills. Child B responds best to songs and movement and visual cards. So that student learns best with a combination of auditory and visual learning methods. Child C engages best with an interactive tablet, which reinforces the recognition through technology, and then they receive immediate feedback. Each child is working towards that same goal, right? Letter recognition, but in 3 different ways tailored to meet their individual needs. And so when teachers are able to do this, this ensures hopefully interest and engagement and motivation because the child's needs are being met. Right? And then when that happens, we're hopefully increasing the likelihood of success in learning. And then when we're documenting children's progress, we can adjust based on our observations our next instruction. So I showed you all the curriculum cycle, right, and how we observe and we plan and we implement and we observe, and it's just that never-ending cycle of that observation, assessment, teaching process. So this example also demonstrates how content, the process, and product differentiation can work together. And hopefully you see that we have to be creative and we have to be flexible, and we really have to think about all the different ways that we can support learning. So, in review, individualization and differentiation are those essential strategies for inclusive preschool classrooms. We're assessing each child's abilities and their interests and their developmental needs so that we can have effective instruction. Educators have to plan intentional activities and adapt content, process, products, and environments to support all learners. We have that ongoing observation and assessment so that we know that instruction remains supportive and effective and responsive to how children are growing and developing. Collaboration is key, so we collaborate with families, we're collaborating with specialists, and that we're all working towards the same goal of supporting that student and hopefully their overall success. Differentiation allows children to access the same curriculum in ways that make sense for them. So we're all learning about the same concept, but we're learning about it in different ways. That individualized instruction fosters engagement and confidence and hopefully independence. And then when we celebrate those kind of things, it helps children see their progress and their goals. It helps families see progress. It helps us as educators see progress, right? So that ultimately we know we're creating a curriculum and a classroom where all the students are thriving. And that inclusion is not just a place, right? It is a method. It's a philosophy about meaningful, active participation and growth of all students.